Hi there, neighbor, and good afternoon. I know sometimes we don't always have time to read a book or an article, and sometimes just watching a video can be a really good way to get some information, share some information. So today I wanted to share this book called The Spiritual Tasks of the Homemaker by Manfred Schmidt Brabant. It's a really interesting read, a quick one, and I'm going to share some of it today. But first, I'd like for you to take a moment and just feel into what this word brings up for you. And that word is homemaker. So just take a quick snapshot of that. Positive, negative, cozy, homemaker, housebreaker kind of stuff. Whatever that comes up there, just file that away to look at further. Wash the dishes. Let me start again. Wash the dishes. Dry the dishes. Ring the bell for tea. 3 good wishes, 3 good kisses I will give to thee. 1, 2, 3. I gotta get a job. I got to get some pay. My son's gotta go to art school. He's leaving in 3 days, and the TV's in Esperanto. You know that's a bitch, because alienation's for the rich, and I'm feeling a polar every day. Gung gung, hey hey hey, gung gung. It continues on. Thank you, They Might Be Giants, for that musical piece and for traditional folk rhymes for the other. A new vocation, homemaker. What is to become of the family? What is to become of the home, which has been the foundation of society for centuries? Will it disintegrate? Or can it be taken hold of in a new way? The gathering at which these questions were raised was a pilot conference. It was an attempt to discover what might be involved in grappling with the question of homemaking. We took the workplace itself as our starting point. In the decades since anthroposophy began, some well-founded, respected career portraits have been worked out. Often these had first been inspired by Rudolf Steiner. He held whole lecture cycles about them. Have there been studies of the inner conditions of working in the home? What processes are essential, and what are the secrets of this special task found all over the world? What is its significance today? What influence does it have on society, and what are the conditions involved? Individuality and role expectations. The human being is not a unity. He is divided into body, soul, and spirit. Her spirit, her ego, her individuality only gradually come to development in the course of human history. Only gradually did he become independent and individual. In ancient times, individuality played a minor role or no role at all. Instead, there were norms. These arose because human beings were bound up with large, generic groups by way of their body and soul, insofar as the soul was connected with the body. The human being was a group being, a group soul being. As a man or a woman, he or she belonged to a certain sex. As a Bayer, Thüringer, or Sachsener, forgive me, I don't know how to say those things, he belonged to a certain tribe or family. As a German, Italian, or Dutch person, he was of a particular nation. Finally, she was also part of a religious group. His body brought him into connection with certain groups. These groups determined the norms by which he lived. In the case of the sexes, this was very pronounced. What a man or a woman did was determined by their sex. The role expectations that still persist today arose under such conditions. Gradually, during the course of history, the spiritual aspect of the human being developed. The individual, the ego, became more and more autonomous. It began to emancipate itself. In the 20th century, finally, great conflicts arose between the individual and the old role expectations. The individual felt that his life or her life should not be determined by the role expectations of society, but by herself alone, by himself alone. Humanity is still in the midst of this conflict. The battle is not yet decided, for the relevant principles remain unclear. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why the question of the homemaker has not been taken up in all the many years of anthroposophical work. Perhaps the role expectations within anthroposophical circles are still so great that until now no one has dared to take it up. But it's overdue. Let's see when this was written. 1996. And the first 3 chapters of this book are transcripts from lectures held in 1992 during the Conference for Homemakers at the Goetheanum, forgetting how to say that, in Germany. The Goetheanum's a whole other story. Google it. We have only to glance at society to see this. Will the individual with her right to self-determination, they actually are using her this time, I had been putting it in myself every other time, her right to form her own life, be able to assert herself, or will the old role expectations remain and overwhelm her? The following must be taken into account here. The fact that the human being goes through repeated earth lives and in doing so experiences different situations and genders. The eternal individuality which gradually wrested itself from its bodily nature is neither male nor female, neither French nor Italian, belongs to no particular religious community. This eternal individuality rises again and again out of the depths of its own becoming, to experience new and different situations. If a person takes such a view seriously, then he accepts himself in his current life and situation, for in the next life he will live within other circumstances. This acceptance, however, is practically indispensable if a person wishes to gain a firm point of view regarding the conflict between role expectations and the assertion of the individual. For if he sees his ego, his individuality, as being only temporarily within a certain situation, then he's not tied up with it existentially. It is merely the current garment, his current body, his current task. This view enables him to meet expectations and make choices from out of his individuality. It has often been said, it has rightly often been said, that the independence of an individual is only as strong as his ability to at least feel that he is not identical with his body, and thus not with his gender, sex, race, nor folk either. Inchworm. This is also the starting point for all homemaker issues, and it will become ever more urgent. A homemaker is an individual who enters such work for particular reasons. Usually the homemaker will start out with naive ideals, ones that she has built up herself or which approach her as role expectations from outside, described by the words a good mother, a good homemaker. Where does this ideal come from? In Middle Europe, we connect certain concepts with the word good. However, since we live in a pluralist world society, the Middle European ideal is not the only one. Other cultures have other role expectations and other ideals. Even within European society, there are differences. What was the ideal for an aristocratic woman in the previous century? She was supposed to be a lady of society, to be able to ride, to be accomplished in the arts. Servants were responsible for the household and the children. This was thus an ideal which does not correspond to our current one. Country women had other ideals. Their role expectations came from the village community. The ideal of a good wife and mother comes from middle-class society of the previous century in Middle Europe. It stems from a time in which the housewife did not have to care for the household by herself. Cooks took care of the meals, nursemaids looked after the children. Such conditions continued until about the beginning of this century. However, today's role expectations are still based on those past societal conditions, even though they have since changed. Today, the household rests with the homemaker alone. Let us take our starting point from today's totally overtaxed homemaker. She neither lives up to her ideals nor does she fulfill the expectations of her family. This is at the root of her great frustration, and it is tearing the family apart and destroying it. Overstrain is always at the bottom of things. The homemaker has a significant amount of work to do which she can hardly manage physically. A deep hopelessness arises, leading to loneliness. Children, kitchen, and expectations, she feels isolated with these tasks. In addition, there is the lack of inner stimulation. While she is doing apparently boring things, the rest of the world remains closed to her. Furthermore, her bad conscience plagues her, for her ideal is unachievable. A feeling of meaninglessness takes hold. This is paired with the longing deep in her soul for meaning in her everyday work, for freedom, also a longing for love, which raises life onto a higher plane. Also a longing for love, which raises life onto a higher plane. And that's where we'll stop today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.